Today's notes will be on taxonomy, scientific classification, and nested hierarchy. Remember, while taking these notes, to also put down any questions you might want to ask in class. Taxonomy. Let's first break apart the word into its Greek and Latin roots. Start out with, I'll go to the page that has all the Greek and Latin roots, and we'll look at what tax means. You will see that it means to arrange or an arrangement. The O, as we see in the word, is going to be what connects to the second part, and that's the nonomy part. So we'll go back to the Greek and Latin roots page and look at that, and we will see that nonomy means the science of. So we'll go back and we'll just put those two terms together, and what we learn is that taxonomy is the science of arrangement, and more specifically, it is in biology. So now that we know what taxonomy means, let's learn a little bit more about it. Our modern system was invented by someone named Carolus Linnaeus in the 1700s. Here's an image of him, and he's holding one of his favorite flowers that was named after him. So this is Linnaeus borealis because it is in the northern hemisphere. It's also, the way it's used is to classify things by their similarities. So when Linnaeus was doing his work, the similarities were physical similarities. But now we can also use DNA information, the genetics, and biochemical information. So, scientific classification system. This is a mnemonic device to help us learn the order that it goes in. And a mnemonic device is a way to have an ordered list and put a saying with it, such as, "Did King Philip come over from Germany swimming?" This sentence will help us remember the order that these letters go in. So let's put the letters over here and learn what they really mean in scientific classification system. Remember, that mnemonic device is just to help us remember this order. And that is for domain, kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. Every organism has at least these names. Every organism has at least these 7 names. And we've already learned and used 2 of them in our research project that we've been doing this week in class. When you look up your animal's scientific name, you are actually looking up the genus and the species. That's the most common scientific classification that you'll know, just like when we talked about humans being Homo sapiens. What you'll see when you look at this illustration is how when you go down in the groupings, you get from the largest group to smaller groupings. When we start out with the kingdom, we have all animals. When we get down to the very bottom, we are narrowed down to usually just one animal, a species of that animal. And you will remember from earlier, the way that they are classified is how similar they are all to one another. So at the very top, they are the least alike. They are basically all animals, so we associate a certain thing with being an animal, like it moves around. As we get towards the very bottom, we are coming to things that are the most similar to one another. So when we're at the level of family, what we can see is that we have very similar organisms. They all look kind of like bears. Then when we get all the way down to the species, we have one species of bear. Now we need to talk about what a nested hierarchy is. We just talked about nested hierarchy in a different way, but let's actually look at it in illustration. You start out with all of life, and in that you have those 3 domains. Inside of one of those domains, you have a whole bunch of different kingdoms listed here. So animal is one of the kingdoms. When we go down the next step, we're into the different phylums, and there's all these different phylums. One of them being chordata. We take another step down, and we will get into class. There's a whole bunch of different types of classes of animals, and mammals is one of those classes. Within mammals, there are different orders, and one of those orders is primates. Within the primates, there are a whole bunch of different families, and one of them is Homodidae. The next step down is genus. There are 4 genera within the family Homodidae. One of those genera is the genera of Homo, which there are different species, most of them, though, are extinct. The only species that exists today is Homo sapiens, even though in the past there have been different subspecies, which is what this last part of the illustration shows. So the only species alive today of humans, Homo sapiens, even though 200,000 years ago there was a different subspecies of humans around. So as we go back, you'll see how it's nested. It is basically like one of those Russian dolls where you have pieces within pieces within pieces. Of course, the biggest thing is that all of these things are alive.